when you press start
Yeah.
and you're beginning a new save, the first word of the whole game is flesh.
Flesh.
That is just so perfect.
And the second word is bone. Yeah.
It's so
It's very good.
And the way it's read and narrated is so well done. It's just like such a good performance. And there's this nice pause after flesh. Just flesh. And they just let that hang.
Yeah.
It's flesh with a period.
Yeah, that's
it's not flesh, comma. It's not flesh, comma, bone, or flesh, bone, period. It's flesh, period. Bone, period. Then he goes on with the monologue. Happy Halloween, everybody. This is the week of Halloween. And we're going to be talking about a game called Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
That's right.
All of you PlayStation fans out there, which constitutes probably the largest majority of our audience.
Yeah.
You didn't play this game, most likely, and you should. Well, to be honest, GameCube players didn't play it either, but that's kind of beside the point. It did not sell well.
The few of us that there were. No, I did play it, actually.
I did too.
I had a blast on this one.
But the only reason I did play it is because you guys had it.
Yeah, you came over to
My
our place.
mother would have never let me buy this game.
Now, see, my mom was with you on the no GoldenEye 64 thing.
Yeah.
Like but for some reason,
that's a
my
good
parents let us have Eternal Darkness.
Did they know
Nope.
that you were what the game was? Because I remember this being Kyle Carpenter's game.
Yeah,
that he let
that's
you
right.
borrow.
Oh, did we just steal it?
But you kind of just kept it.
Did we just steal it? I don't remember actually buying this game. I feel bad if we stole that. I didn't realize this whole time.
Kyle, we've reached out. If you're watching this,
sorry, dude.
If you're out there in the world, a couple times we've mentioned you in the past.
Yeah.
We need to give you a copy of Eternal Darkness back.
It's been 25 years. Hope we're cool. Hope we're still cool.
Anyway, Kyle was the one who introduced us to the game.
Yeah.
And he talked about how cool it was. There's all these different time periods.
All the graphics.
The graphics are really awesome. And he was all stoked about it. And that's kind of how we got introduced to it. And then you guys played it a lot.
A lot.
And I would come over and watch mostly. And then I didn't play it myself for the first time until, I want to say, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And then I did a second playthrough kind of recently, maybe 2 years ago. And then this replay for today. So 3-ish times. But you just need to do yourself a favor if you haven't played it and play a game.
Go play the game.
It's fantastic.
Come back when you're done. Yeah.
It's freaking outstanding.
Yeah.
To a level that I didn't even expect.
As I was
now
playing it this time as well, I was wondering, like, why is this not on level with Resident Evil and Silent Hill and all the other big games? Like this game, maybe gameplay wise, I can give like Resident Evil 4 has like some good gameplay, better than Eternal Darkness in a lot of ways. But Eternal Darkness has a creepy storyline and it delivers much more impactful like moments, just horrific moments, than basically any game I've really ever played.
Yeah. It's voice acting and writing.
It's quite good.
Is actually really impressive.
Yeah, especially 2002?
Yeah, much more so than those other games you're talking about.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, particularly the early series, like 1 through 3, where there's a lot of similarities to this. You have your fixed cameras.
Fixed camera.
It's
I love the fixed camera. Sometimes it's on rails, sometimes it's fixed. I really like the camera work.
Game that takes place in a mansion that you're exploring. That's very Resident Evil 1-like.
Resident Evil 1,
So there are many similarities to that, but also very purposefully and intentionally many differences, which we'll get into here in a minute. But one strength that this game has over basically all of the others, maybe aside from Silent Hill 2, which we've done a series on, is its writing and storytelling, which is just really, really good. And the voice acting is really good.
Yep.
Performances are great. It has a really interesting premise.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a game that's really worth breaking down in the style that we do here on our channel, and I think you'll get a lot out of it if you haven't played it. So if you haven't played it, go and play it. We're going to talk a little bit about how the game was made and the dev history, but we're not going to do a whole episode dedicated to that. We really want to get into like the substance of the game here, which does have a lot of, on top of Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe inspirations, also Carl Jung, which is a big thing for this channel and the types of stuff you guys are into due to Xenogears and Xenosaga and Xenoblade. Tetsuya Takahashi
Also,
games.
like Joseph Campbell type stuff, although through the lens of the previous Joseph Campbell, a guy named James George Frazier, who is quoted from his book, The Golden Bough, which was the James Campbell Hero with 1,000 Faces, but 60 years before James Campbell ever wrote it, right? Yeah. It's along that line, right? And that's obviously anybody who is familiar with our channel knows that I am all about that kind of stuff. Yes. So that features heavily in this game.
Yeah. So there's a lot of substance. There's a lot of good philosophy that informs the game.
Yep.
And so if you haven't tried it, I'm just going to invite you one more time. Go play the game. It's amazing. But let's talk a little bit about the development studio who made the game. They're called Silicon Knights.
Yeah.
And they were around through the 90s and then up till about 2011. And then they had a couple of years that are a little muddy there. They ran into some legal issues and then closed down. I think officially were defunct in somewhere in the early 2010s.
Okay.
Yeah, 2013, 2014, something like that. But you may have heard of one of their early successful games, Blood Omen: Legacy of Kain.
There you go.
Which was developed in collaboration with Crystal Dynamics. There was a dispute on the IP rights to Legacy of Kain, which Crystal Dynamics won.
Oh, man.
And so Crystal Dynamics went on to develop the sequels in the Legacy of Kain series.
The Soul Reaver.
And there's a little bit of a recurring theme for Silicon Knights is they get into some kind of legal trouble they can't win, and it bites them in the long run.
Dang it.
Which is unfortunate because games like Eternal Darkness show so much promise.
Oh, yeah.
Are so well made and so overlooked by kind of the general gaming audience who flocked to other well-deserving survival horror games, but then something at the level of quality that this has, that gets passed over. I think on Metacritic, it's something like a 92 out of 100. It's very, very well reviewed and was well received, but just didn't sell well because it was made for the GameCube and not the PlayStation.
I think that's what it comes down to.
It's really what it comes down to. If it had been on the PlayStation 2, I think it would have been seen similarly to games like Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil, and things like that. Now, before we get any further into the development side of things, if you haven't heard of the game, it might be good to kind of give a rundown as to what it is, like what kind of game this is. It will get lumped into in conversations with games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, but this is not a survival horror game.
Right. Yeah. It's a sanity.
It's actually at its heart an adventure game.
Yeah.
It shares a lot in common with point and click adventure games.
Right.
There's a lot of times you'll be walking around exploring, trying to solve puzzles or figure out how to get into this next room, or, what is this thing in this mansion for? You're trying to kind of piece together clues that advance you in the plot. And so in that sense, it leans a lot more heavily into those aspects than it does into any of the survival aspects of survival horror.
Right. Yeah.
That being said, it takes the classic adventure genre and gives it sort of like a horror theme or face.
Yeah.
And I think that combination is just really perfect. I think those two go together really, really well.
It's almost like an Indiana Jones type game.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of because you jump into different times and different eras. It's like the Indiana Jones of whatever era and whatever place that we're at. That's who we're playing as. And it's really fun. It's just not the Indiana Jones happy-go-lucky Indiana Jones. It's more the Indiana Jones caught in a horrific struggle, but still Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. If they were to have made Indiana Jones into a horror film, but keeping the same character and, with some of the same scenarios, but just leaning into that darker atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay, guys, imagine Temple of Doom, but better. like good Temple of Doom. That's what we're talking about here.
Exactly. So I think that's a perfect way to set it up, but it has a couple of really interesting, I think you could call them gimmicks, that are unique to this game and which Nintendo has since patented, which is why you probably don't see it in other horror games, which is the sanity mechanic.
Yeah, the sanity meter.
So this was its biggest, I think, selling point, which is the more you come across the horrors of this world, the character has a sanity meter just like a health meter or a magic meter that decreases the more messed up stuff you see.
Yeah.
And as that goes down, there are all of these really clever,
very
fun effects that will take place that are meant to not only show the unraveling of the psyche of the character you're playing as, but that are meant to kind of mess with you as the player as well. So at certain points, maybe it'll look like the TV shuts off while you're in the middle of a battle, or the volume would be turning down or up or something
volume
like
down. It will delete your save file. Like you'll be playing it out of nowhere. It'll the save menu will pop up and it'll go delete. Are you sure? And I'm just like, no, wait, what's happening? I remember, and as a young teenager when this game came out, I remember this worked. Like this stuff really worked well, and especially if you're playing it on an old CRT TV.
Oh,
because that's the volume meter. It's not a modern LCD volume meter.
It looks like the old TVs.
Yes, exactly. It's an old CRTV volume meter, or the like the channel, not the channel, like the input.
Yes,
kind of signal. All of a sudden, everything will go
change.
staticky.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that happens on
LED
TVs. I mean, if you are not receiving a signal, that's just what happens.
I think it does.
Any TV would do that, but I avoid that now. It used to happen all the time with the LCD TVs, or sorry, with the CRT TVs, because as you're going through different things or unplugging, and it was always really loud. Oh, turn the volume down! But that doesn't really happen anymore. But to get the full experience, if you've got a CRT TV, play this game on that.
Play it on that.
It's something else. Or there's one too where it's like a demo of the game. Oh, good job! Thanks for playing the demo. Buy the real game when it comes out,
or the sequel comes out some other time.
And it's like, what? You're like in the middle of a level, you know? Oh, it's so good. It's so brilliant.
The little bugs crawling across the screen.
Yeah. And if you're playing at night, like which me and my brothers did, that looks like a real bug. It really, like there is something really crawling on your screen.
And
at first it's one,
and then it's a bunch.
And then it's more.
So
I love just reminiscing about this. This was so creepy and so much fun. We would purposefully deplete or allow the sanity meter to go down just to like see what's going to happen next.
Dude, I have a great quote here from the developers that basically perfectly sums up that part of the experience. And it is, what if you could go insane for fun? That's basically what Eternal Darkness, as far as this part of its gameplay, is attempting to provide as an experience for the player. It really is fun.
Yeah.
Like it's creepy and it's scary, but not to the extent to where, oh man, replenish that sanity. I don't want to. You want to see those effects. They add to the experience.
There were times though where I was like, I think I've had enough. Right? I've had enough of this. This is too much. But for the most part, it's just like bring it on. You know, whatever creative thing they're going to do next, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Another interesting mechanic that makes it a little bit unique. I don't know, not nearly as unique as say the sanity meter is, but it has a targeting system where, as you're fighting, you aim at either the head, the arms, or the body of
kind
monsters.
of like Fallout, kind of. There's a you can choose which part you target.
Dead Space has this as well, where you sever limbs from enemies and things like that. So this had a mechanic very much like that, all the way back in 2001, and so. For the most part, it's not as robust as I think it could be.
Okay.
But there are certain enemies where you're going to want to aim for a specific limb or the head or something like that more so than another. And you'll have better success if you're aiming at the right thing.
Yeah, right.
But for most of the enemies, cut their heads off first, and then you can deal with them more easily.
They'll still try to attack you, but they can't really see you.
They can't see you, exactly. Anyway, so that's the kind of game it is. At its heart, it's an adventure game. There's a lot of puzzle solving, a lot of really good puzzle solving. But there is some combat with enemies that has that, aiming or targeting limbs kind of mechanic thrown in there. And then it has really, really great cutscenes with very solid performances, particularly for the time in comparison to a lot of other games. So that's Eternal Darkness. Now, going back to Silicon Knights here, Nintendo is the publisher for this game and the IP owner. So Nintendo owns Eternal Darkness,
I see.
not Silicon Knights. And they were contracted by
Okay.
Nintendo to make this game. So when Nintendo came across Blood Omen in the mid 90s, I want to say 1995 at E3, they were like, that's really cool. And they were already interested in trying to garner or get a foothold in the like more adult audience sort of sphere. They were seen, and this was something Sega really hammered home in their marketing during the early 90s, that they make the cool, edgy,
Yeah.
mature games, and Nintendo makes
for
the
kids, yeah.
kid-friendly, family-type games.
Right.
And Nintendo was already a little bit concerned at this point that they might be losing some of their audience as they move from kids
As
into
they grow
adulthood,
up, yeah.
as they start getting into high school age, as they start going to college, that they might start losing them because their image was too family-centric. So they were looking for developers who could make stuff that would help them keep a foothold in that market. And so they approached Silicon Knights after seeing Blood Omen specifically to recruit them for this purpose. We want you guys to make a game, a rated M level type game for Nintendo, to be a Nintendo property. And so they agreed to do it, but most of the game's development was actually for the Nintendo 64. It was originally going to be a Nintendo 64 game.
Really?
Yes.
It looks great for a GameCube game. Even.
I know.
That's interesting.
And this is something that the director, I guess I should talk about some of the key developers here. Dennis Dyack is
Okay.
the developer and the founder of Silicon Knights. This is something that he talked about was, had we just been a little bit better in terms of our ability to develop more quickly, get games out in a more reasonable manner, the game would have come out on the N64 and probably would have had more success
Yeah.
than being an early GameCube title.
Right.
Not only because the N64, while still not like the biggest seller in the world, sold a
outsold the
lot
GameCube.
more units than the GameCube did.
Yeah.
I think the N64 sold somewhere around 35 million.
Right.
The GameCube barely cracked 20.
Yeah.
So, but that's still like a long-term number. The install base at the time that Eternal Darkness came out would have been way, way smaller than that.
Yeah.
And so Eternal Darkness only ended up selling, less than 500,000 units. They probably could have broke at least 1 million had it been a late stage, but not like way, way late stage, say a 98 or
99,
a 99 stage game. But they were getting ready for it to come out early 2000, something like that.
Okay.
And so Nintendo approached them and said, hey, we're at the end of the life cycle here. We're not sure we're going to get as much support as we want for that. We want you to change this into a launch GameCube title instead.
Yeah.
They didn't end up making that. It ended up coming about a year or then just the following year from launch of the GameCube. But they had to totally reconfigure, basically remake the whole game
I was
going to
say, if Final Fantasy 15 had
Yes.
trouble going from PS3 to PS4
Yeah.
with the Luminous engine and all that. Imagine N64 to GameCube. It's
Yeah.
just a different game. Like you
Totally
are
different.
throwing everything away and reprogramming everything from scratch.
Basically, yes. They might use some of the same tools. They did mention specifically using 3ds Max for their modeling and stuff.
Nice.
Like you'd probably still be using some of those tools, but you have an entirely different engine you're working on now.
Yeah.
There's just so many complications that come with that transition that they said it was awful.
Yeah,
Awful time for them. Personally, they weren't sure how they were going to get through it, and Nintendo sent some developers to them. They called it parachuting in to the battlefield to like help them get it done.
That's funny. Okay,
And
cool.
there were some, conflicted sentiments on that. Some of the team were really glad that veteran Nintendo developers were there to help them and teach them, especially how to work on their hardware.
Oh, yeah.
And to improve some of the rough edges of the gameplay. But also there was another side of the room that said we felt like they basically just came in and took over
the project.
and our input didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Dennis Dyack, the director, said he was grateful for their help and that it was a really positive aspect of the partnership between Nintendo and Silicon Knights, and that he felt like the game was better because they came in and helped them get across the finish line in the end. But they had a nearly finished game on the N64 that had to be, like you said, more or less scrapped and restarted.
That's wild. It's almost like make the same game again, but slightly different, and just release the N64 one. I mean, yeah, that's fascinating.
It, as with all of these games we cover, you know, there's some rough times in terms of development, and they took a little too long making it in terms of getting it ready for the N64. But the GameCube did allow them to do a lot of stuff that they couldn't have done.
Yeah.
The new camera system that they used on the GameCube, which I think adds so much to the tone and the atmosphere, the way that camera is positioned and the way that it moves, very intentional.
Yeah, intentional and often subtle. It's not a free cam that follows you. It is positioned in very specific places. And as you're moving, like the keyframes, I really liked the camera. Yeah. It was really, really cool.
It's great. And this is why I keep calling for a return to fixed cameras in video games. There's no reason why some games can't have this. Some, I mean, at least some, right?
At least some. Come on.
Not every game has to have 10%? A free camera.
Yeah. Reminds me a lot of the way that FF10 used
this
same
feels
type of
very
camera.
Similar to FF10 in a lot of ways. I totally agree with that. And so anyway, it's fantastic. It's very cinematic in a lot of ways. It creates really strong atmosphere. So that was a big thing in terms of moving to the GameCube. But on top of that, they could have something like 8,000 polygons on the screen at once.
Way more.
and the animation fluidity, like the higher frame rates and like the smoothness of the animations. That's one of the things that really struck me in that leap from the N64 to the GameCube. On top of, you know, a little higher resolution and, you know, obviously higher polygon models.
Yeah.
Which was like, whoa, you know, like this, there's the jagged edges, like they actually have fingers. And
yeah. And the handle looks more circular instead of like a literal square like it is in Mario 64.
Yeah, exactly. So on top of those things, I think what really blew me away about this jump to this next generation was that higher frame rate and the smoothness of animations. And two games in particular just completely blew my mind. One was Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which came a little after this.
Yeah.
But when I saw this game and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3,
the movements are quite fluid in that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's what really sold the realism in terms of graphical fidelity to me, was how smooth everything looked. It was really amazing. Yeah. And so this game coming early on, not at launch as they planned, it got a little delayed, but coming early on in the GameCube's life and me seeing those realistic animations, those smooth animations, it felt so lifelike, really added to the scariness of the game too.
That's right.
It feels way scarier than it would have as, you know, little blocky people.
Yeah.
Not to say that there weren't great horror games before this, and Resident Evil being chief among them, and the first Silent Hill.
Or Parasite Eve.
There's something about, at least for me at the time, the smoothness of animations and the lifelike nature of it that really added to that overall tone and kind of just like the fear or the appeal of how spooky and scary it was. So yeah, that is more or less, I've really kind of summarized a lot of the development history there, but I didn't want to spend an enormous amount of time on it, but I did want to say at least this part. Silicon Knights' concept for the game was to create a horror game that did not fall under the survival horror genre. Dyack claims that they went with a deeper, more classical approach to horror, calling it a psychological thriller as opposed to the B-movie horror plots of the Resident Evil series.
Interesting.
So they also wanted to make a game that responded directly to contemporary video game controversies. At the time, there was a big worry about video games causing violence in kids and things like that, right? and that they were messing with kids' minds psychologically.
Right, yeah.
Video games were under fire for messing with people's heads and being accused of being murder simulators and stuff like that. So we thought, wouldn't it be a good idea to make something that really does mess with people's heads? They leaned into that
Often
in a big way.
that's hilarious. Where it's like, ooh, good idea. Never thought of that. Thank you, mother. I'll make that game that you're telling me I'm already playing. Sounds dope.
It's really funny. And another thing that came as a consequence of that, though, were some concerns from Nintendo themselves.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much on that controversy as much as if you make a sanity effect where it looks like the game file's being deleted, kids are going to reach for their memory cards to try to pull them out, and they may actually damage their memory cards.
That's right.
And how many calls are we going
right.
to get in response to the fact that this game made them damage their hardware that they bought from us? And in the end, they were convinced to come on board, make them a little shorter, like, you know, don't give them time to pull their memory card out, kind of a thing.
When these things happen, you don't realize what's happening until when you realize it, it's just a few seconds more and then it's over.
Yeah.
Right. But you really just think it's part of the game.
Yeah.
Like that one part where I can't remember who it was. But you walk out into a room and the character's arm just falls off.
Yes.
And then just keep walking, the other arm falls off. And then the head falls off and the body just falls down. And it's just like, what? And then it flashes and you know, it's as if that was a hallucination. You didn't realize that wasn't really happening in the game until it kind of reloaded the level, and it was like, oh, that was a sanity effect. So the way they do it was clever enough to where you don't know that's happening when you see it.
Even replaying it, even though I know the sanity effects, there were still a couple times where I was like, whoa, what's going on?
What's going on?
I hadn't remembered that one or something.
I wonder if we even saw all of them when we played. There might still be some animations we missed.
Yeah, I think there's over 50 of them in total.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I'm sure that that's the case.
And the game, it's a 12-ish hour game, maybe?
Something like that. 10 to 15 hours, depending on how you approach it and things like that. But I didn't remember the save file being deleted. Sanity effect. And it happened to me while I was going to save the game.
It's in a rough place.
So
interesting.
I was actually going in for the purpose of saving, and I was going into what I thought was and it was deleting the file. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, what's happening?
I love this game. But if you do it at a per hour, it's like you're getting several of these per hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a couple of them I hadn't remembered, and I was confused while playing it, even being a veteran of the game. So they're really cool. I recommend, if you're going to play this for the first time, it gives you methods to replenish your sanity. So there's a spell, but also killing monsters.
If you finish the monster, right? Because if you can kill it and they kind of just disappear, but if you do a finishing move, and some of the finishing moves are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
Then it's like, boom, it restores your sanity. And I like the symbolism of that too.
Yes.
It's like you're battling your own demons in a way. There's multiple levels of
overcoming
like metaphor
fears.
And it's like when you really slay that demon, it's like it's gone and you become more sane.
Yeah.
Right. But as you are just trying to avoid the enemies and run away from them and run around them because I don't have enough bullets or whatever's going on, that's when your sanity starts going down because you're not dealing with the actual problem.
Yes.
You're allowing them to remain. You're just running away from the problem. And that's what depletes your sanity.
Yeah.
I like that. I really like that.
I like it too. I like it a lot. Like the sort of meta idea that they're kind of playing with there. But I would actually recommend, unless you're in an area with a lot of enemies, where if your sanity gets depleted all the way, when an enemy locks eyes with you, it initiates a depletion of sanity. And if you have no sanity left, it'll start depleting your health instead.
That's right, yeah.
So
you can't,
in those cases, it's a good idea to have some sanity to give you some wiggle room. But otherwise, I actually recommend playing with your sanity low to see as many of these as possible.
It's fun.
Because that really adds to the experience in a fun way.
Just get used to playing the game all the way, like basically sideways. Like as the sanity meter goes down, the camera starts canting more
and tilting a little
and more.
bit.
And when it's all the way down, you're basically like, I don't know, a 20 degree cant.
Angle. Yeah.
Feel like you're going to slide off of a ship the whole
And
time?
another thing to be aware of that too is there will be a lot more voices and just like chaotic sound, whispers and crying and screaming and things like that. And if that bothers you, you restore that sanity. It's really cool how quiet it begins to feel.
That's right.
Like I noticed this a couple times, and this is something I paid attention a lot to is sound design. And I'd be playing for so long with the sanity low that when I would restore it, it would feel so quiet and just like a huge almost relief.
That's
it's
funny.
just like, whoa, that feels so nice to not have all that freaking noise in my ears because I'm playing with headphones. Like, oh my goodness.
It's funny how gradually they just turn it up to where you don't really even know. I mean, you notice, but you don't notice how much it's gotten until it goes down.
Yeah.
Another fun thing is when you're seeing a cutscene, but a lot of these cutscenes are just in game. They're in engine cutscenes.
Right.
And so the camera will just like go somewhere and show a thing happening. And then it comes back to you. And then the camera cans.
Yes, I noticed
So you
that.
see the normal one, and then as soon as the gameplay's ready to start, then the camera goes, oh yeah, by the way, your sanity meter's really low, buddy. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh yeah, my sanity's way low. Okay, I get what's going on now.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that was all I wanted to cover other than some of the references and inspirations.
Yes. Yeah, there's several things you can read to...
so Edgar Allan Poe is
Poe.
the first quote that comes up when you load the game.
Yeah.
Is an Edgar Allan Poe quote. There's a lot of
Sets the
Lovecraft
mood.
inspirations
Lovecraft,
here.
yeah.
You mentioned the other one. I forget the name.
James George Fraser.
Yes.
Yeah, The Golden Bough, written in like 1890 or so. But that is actually a really good book. I really like that. But I've read it in the past. It's a really fun book.
So we'll be going over these references. I think we should probably start with Poe since that's the first thing you see in the game, and you provided some notes on that.
Yeah, we've got it.
So
the very first line when you boot up the game is, deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting. And that is the line. Now that comes from an Edgar Allan Poe poem called The Raven. And I actually want to read a little bit more of the poem here because it's really good. Poe was such a good writer. And especially in this genre.
Yeah, I remember
so good.
High school English class. I've talked a lot about some of the fantasy stuff we read. Like in the past, I've talked about how those influenced me, like the Odyssey and the Hobbit. But we actually did read a lot of Poe in high school too. And that was another huge influence in my desire to become a writer. He's phenomenal.
Very good. So my favorite poem from Poe is The Maelstrom. Yeah. And it's almost it's sort of actually like the allegory of the cave, of Plato's cave, but it's on a boat in a sea. Anyways, really good stuff. But this one from The Raven, I'm going to read the line. I'm going to start at the beginning of the poem. It's not that long. It'll take you maybe 7 or 8 minutes to read The Raven. But I'm just going to read this part up until, and just listen to how the darkness slowly envelops your mind as he's speaking, and just try to think about, what he's getting at in some of the imagery he's using. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. That is it, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating, and then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. And then I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Lenore was a woman he was in love with, and she's been gone for a long time. Then a raven enters the home. Anyways, it's really, really good. Oh, there's a little bit more. Here it is. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again, I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Anyways, just think about this. Think about this. And the raven and what it symbolizes and all of that stuff. There's really good stuff here. But he is going crazy. Yes, he is slowly going insane in this room, and there's a statue of a raven that starts talking to him.
Yeah.
And like this whole poem is beautiful, but just the visceral, like the imagery produced when he's just describing the darkness, the endless darkness. And then you think, oh, then I saw something. Nope. Still more darkness. Like the darkness never ended. And that's the torment of this man's mind, the darkness in his life. There's no end to it. And he sees no end to it. And he is just racked with grief. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Got
but
this
I loved it.
quote here from Dyack, the director.
Okay.
All horror is steeped in Edgar Allan Poe, but Lovecraft is a staple of horror. Yeah. And just about every major horror movie, almost every major horror writer had to have some homage. And we stand on the shoulders of giants.
I love that acknowledgement. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's why they lead off with Edgar Allan Poe. And if you know anything about Lovecraft, particularly the ending of the game, very Lovecraftian.
Some Cthulhu type themes.
Exactly. Call of Cthulhu, I forgot to mention that. That's a board game. It's a little D&D-like.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually an inspiration for the Sanity Meter.
Oh, really?
So that's another inspiration
very
that
cool,
they
very
pointed
cool.
to. But he says here, the other one that's a little more subtle in terms of references in Eternal Darkness that a lot of people don't pick up on is Michael Moorcock and the Parallel Universes Eternal Champion kind of thing. That's also a huge inspiration for Geralt of Rivia and the Witcher series.
Oh, cool.
Michael Moorcock's main character is very similar. He's got the white hair.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's, you know, so there are some people that will accuse the creator of The Witcher as plagiarizing Michael Moorcock a little bit.
I didn't know that. Huh.
So anyways, Michael Moorcock was a big inspiration for this.
Very cool.
We hadn't really looked into it and said, let's do part of this or that and mix it all together. It's just that these were the kinds of things, if I were to say, that our game is similar to. However, we do try to create something original every time. In Eternal Darkness, we talk about the history of the ancients and them being imprisoned. In every major area in Eternal Darkness, there was a major catastrophe that occurred at some level.
Right.
And there's a huge history influence on this too.
Yeah.
So they were big history buffs. They loved history. And so in particular, the Pillar of Flesh in the chapter with Abdul, that's historically accurate. That stuff really did happen. Referring to Tamerlane, I think is the name of the historical figure. He had a habit of slaughtering people in cities that he conquered. And so we basically have gone through history and said, what are these crazy, insane things that have happened? And then we would put our fantasy spin on it, let's say. There's an ancient influence and that made these people do these really bad things.
Right. Yeah.
So that's another element that I think makes Eternal Darkness extremely unique, and it's one of its greatest appeals to me, is this jump into history and different points of time that the main character is reading about and learning about, and you go back into those time periods and play through scenarios that have led up to the modern day, which is the year 2000 that this game takes place in.
Cool. So Assassin's Creed's cool and all, but can you talk more about Eternal Darkness?
Exactly.
It's basically an idea behind Assassin's Creed, but instead of the Animus and like DNA and all that stuff, she's just reading a book.
She's just reading
but you're playing what she's reading. It's really cool. Another thing about that Poe poem that I just want to bring up is the, darkness, staring long into that darkness. Reminds me a lot of that Nietzsche quote, right?
Yeah.
When fighting monsters, be sure not to become one yourself, and whoever gazes long into the abyss also gazes back into you.
Right.
So this is the story about someone gazing into the abyss. And what happens at some point, the abyss gazes back into you. Nietzsche came after Poe, by the way.
Yeah.
So Poe wrote The Raven maybe 30, 40 years before Nietzsche started doing his stuff. So Poe came first.
Yeah. Probably read him. I would assume that Nietzsche
would hope
would have
so.
read Edgar Allan
Poe was maybe more American and
he
wrote
was.
in English.
I wonder if it was. I'm sure his poems were translated.
I would think so. He was very popular. He was very popular. But you never know. I mean, this was a long time ago. Yeah. I wonder.
So the game leads off with this dream sequence. Yeah. Well, actually, should we talk about? Did you take any notes on the
flesh?
Well, that too.
Bone.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Was there anything from the like title screen movie that plays.
No,
That you took note
unfortunately.
on.
So one of the things that it's just like they go through it pretty well. It's just they say, oh, it's a leather bound book, but it's
Yeah.
like that's human leather, that is flesh.
Yeah.
And he says flesh as you're seeing it, and then I'm like, oh no, it's a book, don't worry, but no, it is flesh.
Yeah.
I didn't really gain much. It was very straightforward. I loved everything about it, but I didn't read much symbolically into it. And we have talked about the intro at length when we
Yeah.
talked about our 10 greatest intros. This made the list. This is one of the greatest intros
I think
of any
so.
game ever, according
love
to our channel.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things in that little movie. Nothing that I really took out that was like, oh, this is a great representation of some philosophical idea the game explores or anything like that. But there were a couple of scenes they showed that I do think come up later. There's
Yes,
like
exactly.
the table where there's all those like dissection tools. I think this is that part when Pius is like just like dissecting somebody on the altar, and the guy comes in and talks to him. You remember that scene?
Yes,
he's
I
just
do.
sitting like cutting.
Yes.
So like I think that's a reference
Pius.
to that. They show the planets coming in alignment, which
Yeah,
is
that's right.
kind of like the pinnacle moment for the end of the game. It's the moment they're building up to over like thousands of years.
Yeah.
About 2024
Yeah, they say 2
years to be
millennia, yeah,
exact, because it's 24 BC that Pius
Right.
encounters the effigies in the underground city, wherever that is in the Middle East or Mediterranean or something.
Yeah, I
like
can't
that.
remember exactly where it was, but he was Roman, right? So it's
Yeah.
like he was
They
somewhere
were
else.
they were conquering
Egypt
some
or something.
Mediterranean town
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. Anyways, and then there's a couple of other things. They show a lot of the symbols, like the magical runic type
Yes,
symbols.
and I did
things
look
like
into
that.
these symbols. These symbols were made just for this game.
Right.
So they do kind of look a little bit like maybe like the Lesser Key of Solomon kind of things, but they were designed specifically for this game.
That was one thing I really liked about this game is they do go for a level of historical accuracy in the time periods,
Yeah.
but they didn't try to do any sort of historical reference for like the magic system or
even the gods. Like
yes,
Chaturga is
yes.
not, because I was looking
The
it up. I was like,
supernatural
where did they get
elements.
this name? And they're like, they just made it up.
Yeah, all the supernatural elements are original creations.
that's pretty cool.
for this game. I liked that.
Yeah, because I think they're trying to call attention to things that weren't already noticed by the normal people. Like, so the gods that people had, there was a secret god that they didn't even know about that was actually a through line throughout all the last 2,000 years, has kind of subtly been manipulating events for this long time. And so that's kind of the way that I see it a little bit, is that, because I think at one point, maybe towards the end of the game, there's this line that says, the history that is written is, incredible and wonderful to read, but the history that isn't written is even more, more, I don't know, I can't remember the word, but the history that isn't written is even a greater story than what has been written. And so they're talking about the hidden histories and the hidden gods and the hidden influences that aren't obvious. And these are the things that we've missed that history books have not recorded.
Right.
So it's all, they have free license to kind of just, make up and rename things.
Yeah. So I really like that element. But I didn't pull anything from that sort of like title screen movie.
Yeah, I
necessarily.
didn't either. It's mostly just scenes from the game.
But what I really love is that aside from the Edgar Allan Poe quote, which is the first words that come on the screen when you boot it up.
It's not the first spoken word.
Yeah.
It's the first
Well, they do
read
have
word.
they do have
Does
a
someone read
guy
it?
who
You're right.
reads it.
You're right. You're right.
But the first words of the game when you actually start it, so like when you press start and you're beginning a new save, the first word of the whole game is flesh.
Flesh.
That is just so perfect.
And the second word is bone. Yeah.
It's so
very
good. It's
Yep.
and the way it's read and narrated is so well done. It's just like such a good performance. And there's this nice pause after flesh. Just flesh. And they just let that hang.
Yeah.
It's flesh with a period.
Yeah, that's
it's not
right.
flesh, comma. It's not flesh, comma, bone, or flesh, bone, period. It's flesh, period. Bone, period. Then he goes on with the monologue. And it really sets the tone for the kind of game that you're going to be playing. It's really fantastic. But yeah, the tome of Eternal Darkness, which is where this secret history you're talking about is recorded, it's bound with flesh.
Yes.
Human flesh
Yep.
is like the cover of the book.
The tome of Eternal Darkness.
Yes. So it's really, really creepy.
There's something to read there too, right? Like you are peering inside the human flesh, right? Like there's something within the human itself this is the story of humanity, of mankind. And it's contained within the tome of eternal darkness. It's like, I don't know, there's something there. Very interesting.
Right after that opening narration, I believe by Roivas, the grandfather.
Which, by the way, Roivas, savior backwards.
Oh, yeah. You got that. What do they call that when you flip the word
I can't remember.
around? There's a term for that. Anyway.
I used to know.
Red rum is murder backwards. It's
exactly.
It's that kind of thing.
So Roivas means savior. So this is the family that will act as the savior of mankind. Right?
Yeah. So it opens up on a dream sequence where our main character, Alexandra, or Alex Roivas, is in a closed bedroom and is being attacked by these skeletal monsters. And you get a really quick sort of like just on hands attempt to kind of understand how to. It's not really a tutorial, but it is. It's not an official tutorial, but it is. It's trying to get you to figure out like, what do I do? How do I kill? How do I shoot?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's my favorite kind of tutorial.
Yeah, you're just like figuring it out as you're being attacked.
Yeah.
So you're thrown right into it, and
you see the targeting system. She's got a shotgun.
But it's a nightmare, so you can't win. So either they'll kill you or you'll run out of ammo as they keep coming at you, and eventually you're in a spot where you're trying to fire, but like you can't get them anymore. And you hear as she runs to the door, there's a little slit in the door, like the door of a prison or something like that. And there's a line here that comes up later in the game from one of the other characters. Oh, the rats will eat your eyes.
May the rats eat your eyes. There is another Edgar Allan Poe poem, by the way, that describes medieval torture using rats.
Yes.
And I also wonder if that maybe had an influence on this as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy stuff. But may the rats eat your eyes.
It's really good.
That's really good. And then she wakes up and it's 3:33.
3:33
and she gets
a.m.
a phone call from the Rhode Island police. And they're like, could you come over here? I can't believe how this happened. Basically, I think they're setting up the police as somewhat incompetent.
Yes.
That they aren't going to be able to solve this mystery.
They have no chance.
Because they're like, hey, can you fly over? I don't know where she lived, by the way.
Yeah, they didn't mention where, but she has to fly there.
She doesn't live on Rhode Island.
No.
I don't know if is there a flight from somewhere on Rhode Island to somewhere else on Rhode Island?
I don't think so.
I don't think it exists. I think Rhode Island's too small. So she has to fly there. And when she gets there, the cop is like, all right, he almost seems like he's kind of trying to hit on her a little bit. Like, it's a shame we couldn't have met on better circumstances, miss. And she's like, just show me whatever you want to show me. And he's like, all right, okay. But it ain't pretty. And it's like the most gory, blood-soaked scene I've ever seen.
It is about the most horrific murder scene you can imagine.
Yeah, and she's like, why? Why did you show me this? And he's like, I don't know. I just like what's going on here, you know? And he's like holding a mug of coffee, and it's just like, what kind of cop are you? And she says, can't you check dental records or something? And he's like, well, you see, your grandfather's head is missing. And it's like really not good. But it's like there's still fingerprints. Like you can still identify the person. This isn't like 1920.
I wondered about that too, particularly with like blood or any other sort of forensic evidence. But I wondered, and I meant to look into this. I wondered if that was still a protocol, if there was still, despite having forensic evidence, if there was still some sort of police protocol that requires you to bring a family member in to identify. Goodness. I don't know if that's the case or not. I meant to look into that and didn't have time. But I like what you're getting at, in which it is trying to set them up as being incompetent investigators.
Completely like at a loss of how to possibly even start trying to solve this case.
Right. Because he mentions the fact that there was no signs of forced entry. Yep. And there's no evidence of anyone else being there.
And I can't remember, did they even know where his head is?
No.
It's almost like his head is gone. Yeah.
It's completely missing. They have no leads. They have no clue like how to start it all. He said, I wish I had any answers. I have none. And so she's like, you better find something, because like I want answers to what happened here.
And
then there's a 2 weeks later.
They do a whole SpongeBob 2 weeks later, and she's still there. Nothing's changed. Like, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she kind of like points at him. I want answers. And he's like, me too, miss, but I don't got him. And so I love it. It's like a straight up Boston kind of, maybe New York City, like inner cop accent, you know? It's like Rhode Island, kind of. It's Northeast, you know? It's like, it's sort of like that. New England. But yeah, so after 2 weeks, it's like she's just wandering around looking for a clue.
She's decided if they won't do it, she's going to.
Another funny thing about the Rhode Island police, when he calls, what he says is, excuse me, miss, there's been an accident. An accident. Oh, what was the accident? Oh, your father was beheaded in his home while he was sitting on a couch. I don't know if I'd call that an accident. That doesn't sound like an accident to me. An incident might be the right word. But to say there's been an accident, that's one other thing that really just puts the police like not on the right level for
an
this.
attempt to try and soften it somehow.
Exactly.
I don't know. Yeah,
but like the fact that they can't explain it means that it must have just been an accident.
It must have been
open and closed case.
We have no evidence of foul
anything
play
else.
otherwise. You know.
Yeah.
So that's I'm sure he's just bamboozled. He has no idea what to make.
I like that word, bamboozled. Yeah.
And so you begin exploring the manor and trying to find clues. And you'll come across doors that are locked. You'll come across places where there are symbols that you have no idea like what this is about.
You'll find a clock that is stuck at 3:33.
Yeah, so that's your first clue, right?
Interesting.
And it was also the time that was on her clock
when she got the
woke
phone
up,
call.
3:33.
Who's controlling the outcome of events such that they know when the cop is going to call about the murder, right? So there's like something weird going on here. Yeah. There's something weird.
So
now 3:33, by the way, is like maybe not 3:33 specifically, but there is since ancient times considered what is called the witching hour. And I remember the first time I heard about this was, do you remember this was around the same time actually, The Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Oh yeah,
that movie. The guy, actually, I think he's in Batman Begins. By the way, he's the judge or something like that, or he's one of the bad guys in Batman Begins. But he plays the priest in that one, and he's trying to perform this exorcism. And he said, 3 a.m. It's when the demons mock the Holy Trinity, something like that. Like that's the number 3, right? So this is 333, so it's like extra Trinity 3 number. But it's considered like the deepest part of midnight and the complete opposite to the brightness of the Trinity. This is the darkness of the anti-Trinity, something like that. So that's kind of the idea.
Well,
of that hour.
that's an interesting pickup, because as you're going through, there's a book you can read in Edward Roivas's library. Her grandfather's name is Edward Roivas. That talks about the history of the family and how they immigrated from the Mediterranean.
Yes, they don't say exactly where.
That they were persecuted as witches.
Yeah, that's right.
And that it took like a long time for the family to sort of like get settled into a community. And
they had to lay
accepted.
Low. They almost got killed by the community. Yeah. It seems like almost something along the lines of these magical, strange happenings follow them around, whether they want them to or not.
Right.
It's like wherever they go, these weird things start happening.
Yeah.
And that is still the case.
And so as she's exploring the manor, she's seeing all of this stuff that would cause anyone to like pause for a second. There's like occult stuff all over this house.
All over.
Really, really bizarre and morbid paintings on the walls.
Yeah, their family tree has a man being lynched on it.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And I love this too, because back in the CRT TV days, the caption at the bottom, and a lot of this kind of reads almost like a visual novel as well. Like
that's the adventure.
She slowly stops and thinks.
Point and click adventure.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah. But some of that is to make up for the low resolution graphics. You talk about how much better it was in the N64, but it's still compared to what we got now, it was still pretty low quality. But the caption says, if you look closely, you can see a hidden, what do they call it? Something that they want to hide in the family tree or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, when you play the game now on a high def TV and all, it's obvious. You don't need to look that closely. Yeah. But I'm thinking maybe on the CCTVs, it was a little blurrier. It was a little harder to make out. Is that a person? Is that a person hanging from that tree?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, all that crazy stuff.
this telescope in this room with
That
all
room
of
was
these
crazy.
mirrors and you go a little bit further and just the types of books he has on the supernatural, and she goes deeper and it's just like, whoa, what was going on here?
She kind of starts to think, maybe I didn't even know my grandpa all that well.
Yeah.
And he kind of raised her because her parents are dead. And now she's starting to wonder like who her grandpa even really was this whole time.
Yeah. Imagine that your loved one you find murdered in this horrific way.
Yeah.
And then you start looking into it more and you start seeing all this occult.
Yeah.
Like it's not satanic in this game because it's a different pantheon
set of gods. Yeah, yeah.
But you start finding this dark, like occult stuff everywhere.
Chaturgic.
It's just like
it's very Chaturgifarian.
It would be really unsettling on a whole different level. On top of the imagery itself being unsettling, it's like, why was Grandpa involved with this stuff?
Yeah.
And like, is this like the reason? You're maybe not thinking supernatural being real yet.
Not initially.
Was he involved with people who were like into this like occult secret stuff?
And some of this were like secret passageways in the mansion.
Yeah.
Like you kind of feel a draft under a bookcase, and so you slide it off, and it's like, whoa, there's a passage to like.
You got to use the clock there and turn the time to
3:33
to open the passage to this secret room, in which like there's even more messed up stuff in there, like the pillar of flesh.
Yeah, that's
like there's
right.
like a diagram of that in there, and there's like weapons and this book of flesh and just like all this messed up stuff. It's just got to be hitting her in this moment in just this really, really hard way. Like, what was he involved in?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, who even was this guy?
So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that she's beginning to wonder at this point, like, did I even know my grandfather really? And how did he keep all this stuff secret from me for all these years? So
there's also that line at the beginning that Edward is narrating himself, where he says, my name is Edward Roivas. I am a clinical psychologist. I'm also dead. But no matter, this isn't my story. Yeah. This is the story of other
humanity.
Yeah, the story of humanity. What a way to start a game! Like it's
so good,
so fun.
I would call the intro of the game concluded when you pick up the tome and you begin chapter 1, which is, it goes back to 24 BC with Pius as the character that you're playing as. So the Roman soldier, Pius Augustus.
That's right. Yeah.
But like that premise from the moment it starts, flesh. And you just see like the flesh, the texture of the book on screen, all the way up to when she discovers the tome, that being kind of the intro. It is a perfect horror premise intro. It's
absolutely
literally flawless. It's amazing. I love it.
Yep. And then also just with the name, I can start off here. Edward is an old English name, and it means the guardian of riches, right? So the savior, guardian of wealth or riches. And that's the Ed. I also have thought, because in Swedish, the word Ed means oath. And it could be guardian of oath, but I didn't get that in the etymology. So there must be a different Old English word for oath.
Yeah.
But that would have been cool, in my opinion, but it doesn't seem accurate. But then Alexandria, so Andra means like human in Greek, and then Alex means guardian as well. So Alexander means the guardian of humanity. So you have the guardian of riches, the person who owns all the stuff, and then you have Alexander, the guardian of the people, right?
Yeah.
The experiencer of the people, and the one who is going to be the Roivas, the savior of the people, not just of all the artifacts and all of the interesting historical stuff, which is what Edward was doing.
Right.
So you have just in their names something very interesting that you can read into there. And the other names also mean something too. But I found Pius is very interesting because Pius is that's actually just a word, basically in English. It's basically an English word. It means the same thing in Latin. I don't know. I guess he is pious to,
He does go by Paul in other timelines.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So he kind of changes his name depending on which time he's in. But
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I actually would have to think about that one. But he is pious to the legions of darkness.
Whichever god you choose.
The one that doesn't trust him and he doesn't trust it, but I'll do what you say.
For my playthrough I did for this episode, I did Chaturga. I think you did as well.
I think so, yeah.
And yes, for anyone who's curious whether we know, we are aware of the true ending
There's a
by
secret
playing
ending.
the game 3 times and going through all 3 of those gods, choosing all 3 of them at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that. Don't
Indeed,
worry
we
about
will.
But yeah, so she opens the book, and the first chapter is Pius Augustus, this
Pius
Roman
Augustus, yeah.
soldier who has been sent there by the emperor to retrieve an artifact. There is an underground hidden city in the area that they're looking for. And so they've conquered, this is somewhere in Persia. They don't actually...
so it's Persia. So this may be more Mesopotamian or
Yeah.
Persian. Okay.
Yeah, so the Forbidden City is somewhere in Persia. They don't mention exactly where.
Okay.
They do mention, so the game kind of cycles through 4 major areas. Persia is this first one.
Yeah.
There's this Forbidden City underground there. Then there's a place in Cambodia called Angkor Thom.
Yeah.
And so there's a temple there that we'll return to multiple times. Then there's a cathedral in France, in Amiens,
Yeah, I mean,
France.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the Roivas family estate. So there's those 4 areas that you return to in different time periods. Multiple times.
yeah, it's very cool. And they look different each time you return.
That is one thing I really liked about this game, just from a design perspective. They made the most out of essentially 4 areas that they designed. But there are different rooms you can get into at a different time period, or
that's
some
right.
areas that might be blocked off
Yeah.
in that time period. So they expand upon the level. So even though you're going through the level again, it's not repetitious in the sense that you might fear that it would be,
Yeah.
because they are adding to it. They change the
Quite a bit.
environment.
Oh, it looks very different.
And so it's really cool. And then in some areas it's really dark and you have to use the torch to even see, where maybe before they had lights in that area. So they change it up in a way to where it feels like a new level, even though they're reusing assets and being efficient with their gameplay, with their design assets.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really clever. So yeah, this first scenario, unless you had something else we had to go back to.
I just have one other thing.
Okay.
Because this might even be where the name Eternal Darkness comes from.
Oh, sure.
This is another Edgar Allan Poe quote, but this comes from The Pit and the Pendulum, which is the poem that I mentioned earlier about the medieval torture involving rats.
Right.
And there's this line here from Poe. The blackness of eternal night encompassed me. I struggled for breath. The intensity of the darkness seemed to oppress and stifle me. Anyways, just more Poe stuff. This story is all about rats and torture too, so I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah. So Pius hears his name. He's being called. And so he, sort of wanders towards the voice, finds these stone pillars kind of coming out of the sand in a triangular fashion, which is a big symbol for the game.
Yes. 3, once again, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah, walks into the center of it, finds himself teleported into this forbidden city.
That's right, yeah. Where he has to pick one of the 3.
Yeah, so you're fighting your way
artifacts.
through there, solving puzzles. Pius continues to hear his name being called as you're moving through this level.
One of the things that still confuses me, and I remember thinking about this even when I was younger, when you're playing the game, Pius doesn't seem necessarily drawn to evil in any way. He's just kind of finds himself in a weird situation and is trying to survive and is curious about what an artifact is, and so he touches it. The way that he just turns into this evil villain pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Is it possession? Is he possessed by the spirit of whatever he touched? Or did he harbor ambitions from the beginning?
This brings up the question, who is calling him?
Yes, exactly.
And the what you might suspect as you're just playing the game for the first time is, well, it must be the god whom he chooses.
Right.
One of the effigies towards the end. You come into a room where there are 3 pillars and 3 effigies that represent 3 of the ancients, the gods of this mythology. Chaturga, which is represented with a red symbol.
Right.
Zaltoth, which is represented with a green symbol, and Ulyaoth, represented with a blue circle.
Right.
And there are several different depictions in the game of these 3 symbols formed in a triangle.
Yeah.
Right. So at the top of the triangle, you have the blue symbol. At the bottom left, the red. At the bottom right, the green. in the Roivas family estate, in the room with the piano, you go to the mantelpiece there. There's a depiction of this that have symbols that kind of point from one to the other in a circular motion going around, which indicates a sort of rock, paper, scissors rule set to the power or the balance of power between these gods.
Okay.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's counterclockwise. I believe it's counterclockwise because Ulyaoth, the blue, maybe it is clockwise, but it's representing they're weak to the one in front of them. I can't remember which.
So one they can defeat and one they're weak to, and the one's counter to the others.
Right. So the point is, whether I've remembered this correctly or not, Ulyaoth is strong against Chattur'gha. Chattur'gha is strong against Xel'Toth. Xel'Toth is strong against Ulyaoth. So that's kind of the balance of their power between the three. But in the middle of these depictions is a purple symbol.
Right.
So there's a fourth ancient, Mantarok.
Which you meet quite early on.
Yeah, you do. And so you might not think twice about who is it that's calling me, or calling Pius, I should say, here. But let's just say, well, we're full analysis here. We're going to talk about the true ending and everything. We're only going to do like
2 episodes.
We're only doing 2 episodes on this. Hopefully you've played the game at this point. It's Mantarok that's calling him. Mantarok is the one manipulating all of these events. It's the only power it really has. As we'll see in the next scenario with Elia in Cambodia, that's where Mantarok is.
Yeah,
that's
right.
There's a spell that Pius casts to pin Mantarok there. Mantarok cannot leave, and Mantarok is cursed to this agonizing slow death, millennia-long death.
Yeah.
And so Mantarok's only ability to defend itself from the other ancients is this ability to manipulate people. The way in which it does that, I'll hold off for today. We'll probably talk about it in the next episode.
Yeah.
But it is manipulating the players in this game, so to speak, almost Greek godlike, to move and act in ways that serve its purposes. So that is what the purple symbol represents, is Mantarok. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But did you have any more on the Pius scenario?
Give me a sec. I just have to make sure. Books by Poe, Lovecraft, William Blake, and Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah.
Well, that's just art. William Blake was an artist too, but he also wrote a lot of poetry. But his poetry is a little more redemptive, a little less just pure and cynical. I actually really like William Blake a lot. But that, if you want to know stuff about the game too, those are other places to go to. Oh, well, one of the really cool things that this game does is when you first see Pius and he's talking with the other guards, they're speaking Latin.
Yeah,
straight up Latin. Then it slowly just kind of like morphs into English in a way that I didn't even really notice. I think they just overlaid the tracks and then turned the volume down on one and turned it up on the other.
It's a crossfade.
Because I had to rewind a little bit and be like, wait, they're speaking English now. Hold on. I missed something. Like, go back. Like, what is this? I had to watch it again. And there's just the first like 4 or 5 lines are Latin, and then it just kind of switches into English. And I think it does this at multiple points throughout the game.
It does.
Where they go back and do some other language, and it just morphs into English. I really like that. Instead of just starting off with English, especially back in the day, players were a lot more used to reading their games and not having voice acting. So you're reading it anyways. And it helps to kind of put you into the place. It really helps to kind of immerse you that they're speaking Latin, even though, okay, now I'm hearing English. But I was initially introduced here in the Latin.
So they do that, I think, 2 or 3 times, or maybe more throughout the game. I really liked it, though, that just sort of crossfade. It hammers home again, like this is another time and place, and shows kind of like their dedication to the historical accuracy and stuff like that. So it's good.
There are also a few other lines. We kind of get a narrator's voice, I believe it's Edward, several times throughout the game, and it's just a narrator, right? Yeah. But just kind of saying what happens, but also talking about the inspiration, at least in part. As far as Lovecraft goes, the book that this game seemed to draw the most from is a book called The Shadow Out of Time, which is a Lovecraft book that plays with time, in the way that Eternal Darkness does.
Right.
But then there's that line there, which is, James George Fraser in his book, The Golden Bough, said, and I can't even remember the line from the game because I wrote down a different line from that book, which is a really good book. But he mentions it here and is saying, oh, this, we're going back. This is like the beginnings of essentially archaeology and anthropology, right? And this is the line from Fraser that I wrote down. It's not the one the game wrote down. Fraser envisaged the world as cracked and seamed, sapped and mined, with rents and fissures and yawning crevices opening on to a primitive belief in magic, right? So we live in this modern world that is full of just cracks and crevices, these broken, patched up seams that we think we have left all of that behind, but it's there and it just seeps through into even modern times, just all the time in very unexpected ways. You can't really expect this. And Fraser's whole argument is one that is very important, I think, within the theme of this game, which is that when you come in contact with something ancient, it has a power that you can't explain. And one of another really cool line from James George Fraser, which I wrote down in a different document, is that Diane herself, now the goddess Diana, Diane herself might still linger by this lonely shore, still haunt these woodlands wild. That's a really cool quote from James George Fraser. But he just talks about the power of the ancient world. Like that stuff, the old gods and the old magic and the old way of thinking. By the way, this game spells magic with a K.
I love it.
Huge mass respect to anyone who spells magic with a K. Like, hands down, you're a good dude in my book if you do that. But that's kind of the idea that this book is drawing upon. That once you come into contact with something truly ancient and something that was very powerful through most all of human history, it doesn't just leave you alone.
Right.
Let's just say it attaches itself to you and it follows you because it is structured to fit your brain perfectly, and it just becomes a part of you. And that's why every time throughout all of these stories that we're going to be going back in time to, they always come in contact with the ancient in somehow. And once they do, it's like you have no choice but to see this through now. And the only way out is through. You can't go back anymore. You are now enchanted. And often it just leads them straight to their own death.
Yeah, I love that element to it. And you're right. That is kind of a recurring thing that happens in each
time.
Each scenario, each storyline.
Yeah. It's like there's a moment where they touch something.
It's like they
and
could
made a
have
choice.
run away. They could have done something different to not get involved. But once they're involved, there's no going back.
Yeah, you can't just see the world in a way without those things now.
Yeah, exactly. All that being said, Pius reaches the three effigies, and this is where you make the choice that aligns Pius with one of those three gods.
Yeah.
And depending on which one you pick, it's not just a slight story difference in that he's worshiping Ulyath instead of Chaturga, because there will be scenes where he's speaking like through a portal to one of these gods, and it'll be a different one.
That's right, yeah.
It also changes a major boss towards the end of the game. There's a specific scenario where there's a boss that is different.
Oh, right. I know what you're talking about,
depending on which one of those three was chosen.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there are other subtle differences, even in like puzzles and placement of enemies and what the enemies do.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially the way that this was meant to be set up was that there's kind of an unofficial difficulty selection happening here, right?
Yeah.
If you choose Zeltoth, the green, that's supposed to be like the easy difficulty. And then Chaturga, the red, is supposed to be like the hard difficulty of the game. It doesn't, in practice, end up working out that way. Ulyath is actually considered by a lot of people the hardest path in the game. But Zeltoth Zelatoth, I should say, is considered the easiest. So the green artifact, this is the recommended artifact if you're playing Eternal Darkness for the first time. Zelatoth's minions may cause more sanity loss overall, the green, obviously, effects, but her minions are easily killed, and the sanity loss can be easily dealt with using recover sanity or by simply running to avoid enemies or by finishing them off. Choosing this artifact ensures that you will be using red-colored spells for most of the game because that's strong against the green.
Right.
If you pick this artifact, you will not get the healing spell until Chapter 5. Now, the Essence of Chaturga, the red artifact, surprisingly, this is the choice for the intermediate or middle players who have reflexes, good reflexes, are experienced in 3D gaming. True enemies do more damage, but that's about all they do. Zombies cannot take away too much sanity before they are decapitated, before you knock off their head, because their eyes lock with you, and that's how you start losing sanity. But if you cut their heads off, then they don't, continue to take your sanity down. Horrors cannot do much damage before you limp away to an empty room to cast a recovery spell and prepare your shield or other enchanted weapons. The only annoying aspect here is that Chaturga's minions regenerate lost limbs, but not life, if you leave them be.
Oh.
You will get life, the life spell in Chapter 4 if you pick this path. And then the Essence of Ulyath, the blue artifact, these minions do more damage with magic spells. Or they do more magic damage, I should say, instead. They take away your magic. They deplete your magic faster. They also do sanity and life damage as well. In groups, this adds up fast. Who loses? You do. Fighting Ulyath is recommended for the players who've gone through Eternal Darkness at least once and have an idea of what's coming next. So the purpose of it was to go green to blue to red in difficulty, but it actually ends up going green to red to blue.
Interesting.
So anyway, it is recommended that you play through all three of them anyways to get the true ending of the game. But that is essentially what that choice affects in practice when you're playing the game. So we're actually going to leave off there for this first episode. Next time, which will be in a couple days from now, because this is the week of Halloween, so Monday and then Wednesday release here, we will go through the rest of the game. There are, I think, 13 total chapters. And so each one of them is relatively short. They get a little longer, like as you get deeper into the game. They end up being, at first they were, somewhere between like 20 minutes to 30 minutes per scenario. They start getting a little longer as you get more spells and enemies become a little more difficult and the puzzles get a little more challenging. So they get upwards to about an hour or so per scenario later on. But you should be able to get through the game depending on your, level of familiarity, how quickly you do things or whatever, between 10, 15 hours total. So next time we'll be going through each of those scenarios and finish up the story. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Go play Eternal Darkness if you have not played it yet.
You have to.
And we'll talk to you next time.